Incredibles 2. It's been 14 years since the last Incredibles movie. 14 years. I was 11 years old when the first movie came out. So when I was in the theater, surrounded by what seemed like everybody the same age as me, or maybe a little bit younger, waiting to see a movie that we've all been waiting forever for. How does it do? Well, in Pixar fashion, it was a great movie. Better than the first? In moments. The thing I find really interesting about the Incredibles universe is the mix between time. What I mean by that is they mixed futuristic stuff with Golden Age stuff. It's very classic 50s setting, but we also get a mix of futuristic tech. We get to see computers, Elastigirl's bike, gadgets that are very futuristic, but there's cameras that are very vintage looking. All the cars are pretty old looking. There's a lot of stuff that is just mixed and mingled, and I really like that because it feels like a Golden Age comic book. You know, you get the old timey looking, surrounding city wise, but there's all the futuristic tech and all that stuff, and it makes it feel like a comic book universe, which I'm assuming is what they're going. The movie takes off right where the last one left off, facing Underminer. They go after him, they try defeating him, there's carnage in the city, and they get caught by the cops because superheroes are still illegal in this universe. So they meet a rich guy named Winston who is all about the superheroes and wants to get them legal. So they get out of jail and they are invited to Winston's place, and he throws them a pitch about how he wants to get superheroes back in the limelight, back to being legal, by putting a camera on them and following their every move to show that they're doing a good deed. And that's pretty much the basics of the plot for this movie. Also, we get the villain, Screenslaver, who is a hypnotist type villain through screens. All the actors return to their digital counterparts except for the actor who played Dash. Since Spencer Fox is now 14 years older, they had to cast another little kid to play Dash. Enter Huck Milner. And this kid blew it out of the water. He is so close to Spencer Fox's voice, it's ridiculous. You really cannot tell the difference between Dash from the first movie and Dash in this movie. Their voices are very good, and he does a really good job at playing Dash. Everyone's great in their own way, but my favorites are definitely Dash and Jack Jack. I think Jack Jack stole the show in this movie personally, and I loved every scene with him, especially the one with the raccoon. It was seriously hilarious. Speaking of Jack Jack, he has some powers, and by some, I mean a lot. And according to Mr. Incredible, 17 powers. Some of the powers right off the top of my head I can remember from the movie is turning into flames, kind of like the Human Torch, turning into solid metal, turning into goo, turning into a crazy purple monster, reality warping, laser eyes, cloning, phasing, flying, growing, shape-shifting, and some others. And I think I'm missing 6. So there's 6 other powers that Jack Jack has. That is a ridiculous amount of powers. If we're talking about powers and who's the strongest in the Incredibles family, or just in the universe so far, I would say Jack Jack is probably going to be the strongest super. I mean, he's a baby right now, and his powers are still really good, but when he gets older, he's going to be super OP. All his powers are already crazy, incredible. So he's definitely at the top of the list. Mr. Incredible, he's super strong, but he's not like Superman strong. Elastigirl, or Elasti-Woman as she should be called, is, as everyone knows, super stretchy, but she's not Mr. Fantastic stretchy. Dash is super fast, as we all know, but he isn't Quicksilver fast or the Flash fast. He's not even as fast as the slowest Flash in the DC universe. And for whatever reason in this movie, he seems a little bit slower than he was in the first movie. But he also doesn't use his power as much in this movie, so that's also interesting. Violet is really strong, and if she practices and learns her powers, she can be as strong as the Invisible Woman. And if anybody knows how strong the Invisible Woman is from the Fantastic Four, she is super OP. So if Violet can get there with her powers, she's going to be super strong, just like Jack Jack. But I think Jack Jack's probably going to be just Omega level if we're talking X-Men wise. Last but not least, Frozone actually uses his powers a lot in this. Even though he uses it more and less in other scenes, which is crazy because you get to see the extent of what he can do with his powers, but then in some scenes he's not using it to the best of his ability. But he still has some pretty rad moves with his ice, and he's a lot more stronger than I thought he was. Again, for comparing to comic book heroes, he's not on the level of Iceman, but he still is really strong with his ice power. The rest of the characters that we get introduced to have basic or passable powers. There is Void. Her powers are pretty cool, but she doesn't really feel confident in them, so she doesn't use it like as good as she could. My biggest gripe with this movie, the one thing that is just like the only negative about this whole film, is it was so easy to call who Screenslaver was. Like right off the bat, I'm like, that's them. That's Screenslaver. That's who's under the mask. And what happened later in the movie? Boom, it was them, and I'm like, wow, I called it. Like literally right when the person came on screen. So I don't know if they wanted to make it super obvious who it was. I was really hoping they weren't going to go with the really easy route and make it, something that wasn't. But they didn't. So that's my biggest negative about this movie is the villain was just so easy to tell who it was off the bat. When we finally found out who it was, I was just like, oh, called that one. Throughout the whole movie, right in the beginning. Crime detective skills are on point. Other than that, I like the movie, I like the story. It was really fun. I love seeing Edna Mode again. She's hilarious. Yeah, this movie looked great. The animation is way better than the first movie, obviously. Everything about this movie was awesome except for the villain, just because I could already tell who it was. But other than that, I really did like the movie, and I do hope we get a third one. Obviously not 14 years down the road, but it'd be really cool to see Jack older, maybe Dash's age or maybe a little bit older. I just would be really interested to see him take control of his powers and see everything that he can do. I just think it'd be really cool. Anyway, so this is why I give The Incredibles 2 an 8 out of 10. If you guys like this review, hit that thumbs up. And if you guys want to see more reviews, hit that subscribe button. And thanks for watching.